Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, this is Robert Smigel coming to you today with Canada's podcast, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen here in British Columbia. Today, our guest is Jason Williams. Jason is the CEO of Kidoz, the largest mobile advertising network that safely reaches hundreds of millions of kids, teens, and families every month. Mobile games use the Kidoz platform to monetize with safe ads that don't track or profile players, unlike most digital advertising systems. In addition to his role as CEO, Jason lends his expertise as a guest lecturer at Cass Business School and University College London. He has a Bachelor's of Commerce degree from the University of Victoria and an MBA specializing in strategic marketing from the University of Warwick. Jason, you sound like a busy man.
Thank you. Great to be here. How are you?
Good. Okay. Well, welcome to Canada's podcast and taking the time to be here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you're from Vancouver, but you spent some time in London, and so give us a breakdown.
Good. Yeah. So I'm from BC, from Vancouver, born and raised. Had a great time here growing up, and then headed over to Victoria, where I did a stint at UVic and got myself a commerce degree there. And then I started working in tech after a short stint in Toronto in finance, actually, and then came back to the West Coast working in tech in around 2000 during the first .com boom there, and then that bounced around a little bit, a couple of ventures, and then headed off to London working on a games project there for a number of years. Actually, what was 1 year turned into about 15 in London, and a few different projects in games and platform, and grabbed myself an MBA while I was spending some time over there. It was always an interest of mine to level up on that kind of strategic marketing and strategy competition area, which has always fascinated me. And then actually just headed back to BC this year with Kidoz growing nicely under us. Great, exciting business, 40 plus employees, and having a good time with that.
Great. Well, businesses need money. How did you get financing to start your company, and how do you currently make money in your business now?
Right. Yeah. Well, we raised capital from mostly private investors during our early days, and so we're very fortunate after the very hard work it is to raise capital to find people through the network who believed in the story and helped us to get to where we are today. And Kidoz makes money. We're an advertising network, and so we sell advertising to brands mostly. The Legos and Disneys and Mattels of the world who want to reach children compliantly and safely, and they do so on our mobile network. And we run those ads out, and we take a percentage of that spend, where another percentage flows to the person who runs the app, the app owner.
Okay, interesting. I want you to give me a key piece of knowledge or information about the industry you just described, so our listeners can learn from this.
Sure. Yeah. Well, advertising technology is a fascinating and very deep industry that covers, everywhere from sales and marketing to very in-depth global 24-hour operations, and then deep tech. And it's a fascinating area, very high moving. And I've really enjoyed it. And one aspect that's interesting, I think, that I could share is that almost every ad that you or anyone is looking at on their phone or on the web, it's tracking you, it's profiling you, it's sharing that, it's putting everything that you did and saw around it into a database, and it's getting carried around with you. And that break is something that Apple and Google have kind of been pushing against, and it's what we've built is the opposite of that. We don't share, track, or profile anything, and that's what makes us safe.
Okay, what's the long-term vision, and what will your company look like in the future? Do you see the company expanding into other areas, and where beyond Vancouver, BC, or even Canada?
Well, we're a global company, actually. So we have offices, but they're not used hugely. So we have employees in 11 countries and 14 time zones, and out of that 40 people. And so we look for the best people around the world we've got a lot here in Canada and in different parts of Canada, actually. We've got BC, Alberta, Ontario, just those three right now. But and also many other countries. And I could go into that. But what's our vision? Our vision is to be the most used and most high performant way to reach kids safely with advertising. So our goal is to beat YouTube, really, because that's the number one right now.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Vancouver. You're from West Vancouver right now. I want you to tell me what are the biggest benefits for you in being an entrepreneur in Vancouver, BC. I want you to give some of the good points about starting a company here, but also some of the tough things or challenges you've had for our listeners,
Sure.
so they can keep an eye out for them.
I think one of the greatest things about Vancouver is that it does have a good technology spirit and technology kind of startup aspect. Um, the games industry has deep, deep roots here, and that has spun off so many different businesses. And I think that actually the talent here is very, very good quality people, hardworking people. And comparatively, if you were to try and hire that same person down the coast a little bit, you'd get a much higher price tag. And so if we were to graph capacity and cost, Vancouver would be a big winner. And actually, maybe that's eroding a little bit now because so many other companies have identified that, like Microsoft and Amazon, and they're all moving here too because they want to take advantage of that great talent and Canadian dollar. But it still exists, and not everybody wants to work for Amazon. And so there's a lot of great people, and we've harnessed them here. So that's, I think, the pluses: good network, good roots, good tech, and good people. I think the main negative of Vancouver is probably the time zone. It's there's a lot of business. It's a global world. You've got to be hustling hard as an entrepreneur in a lot of markets. And if you think that you can run from 9:30 to 5:30, you're missing a lot of potential on a Pacific time zone. So it can be tricky from that perspective.
And those 6 a.m. meetings can be difficult.
Yeah, I'm an expert at 6 a.m. meetings. So
Okay.
it's just part of the territory.
Okay, you've been in and out of Canada a lot, so
I have.
we do have a lot of immigration coming into Canada, in particular in
Yeah.
Vancouver. If you were to start all over again, you just moved here to Vancouver, BC, but this time you don't know anyone. Knowing what you know now, what would you do? How would you go about starting all over again as an entrepreneur?
Well, I would definitely do my best to network to find some technical co-founders if I wasn't technical myself. You definitely need someone to help bring an idea beyond a piece of paper. And then I would network into the VC and early stage funding opportunities, whether it's governmental or private. And so the combination of those two things, and be open with your ideation, definitely it's good to have a passion, but also money in entrepreneurship ebbs and flows to different segments and sectors, and actually being a little bit ahead of the right segment or sector is more important than the quality of your vision on day one. You got to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little about your routine. Entrepreneurs are very routine, disciplined individuals. What does the first hour
Sure.
look like for you when you get up in the morning? Do you have a specific routine or ritual that helps you get motivated to start your day?
Um, I try not to get to bed too late because I get up very early. So I'm up usually in the fives, and I don't like to rush onto the screen, but I do usually have a 6 o'clock. And so I kind of stretch, walk around the house a little bit, get tidied up and just get ready for the day. And then I'm on, and I'm engaging with. The thing about our business is when you run a network, it's a 24-hour business. And so from the second I wake up, there's a whole slew of things, interesting things that are happening, and great people to talk to who've already been working for 10 or more hours. Some people are even, looking forward to signing off, who like our team in Asia. And
Mhm.
so it's just about trying to find the right energy for creativity and problem solving, and just that work that anybody brings each day, but consistency is so important.
Entrepreneurs like to read.
Mhm.
You are a very academic person with an academic background. What books are you reading now and why, or even audiobooks? And can you recommend any books for our listeners who are also entrepreneurs?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm a big student of many things. I love history, I love entrepreneurship, I love you know all sorts of different things. But for me, what I'm besides history, what I'm studying right now is just the ways that brands position themselves. And I'm actually rereading a couple of books that I think are super foundational. One of them, they wrote a few, but it's by Al Ries and Jack Trout. And these two are marketeers from, I think, the 80s, actually. And they wrote a particular book called Positioning: The Battle for Your Consumer's Mind. It's about positioning, and it's fundamental for any entrepreneur, because it's about how you can position your brand or your business in a busy marketplace and be remembered. And then they wrote a follow-on book which was called Marketing Warfare, and it describes tactics for entering a market as an unknown, and what are different ways that you can operate to be successful. And I think their writing is super foundational. It's helped me tremendously, because you cannot bang your head against the wall fighting a big incumbent and expect to get anywhere. You have to be creative. You got to think about ways that you can open opportunities that aren't already taken. And so I recommend those.
Any online or offline tools that you use on a daily basis that you could recommend to entrepreneurs throughout Canada?
Um, about Canada, meaning
No,
like,
no, no. Like to entrepreneur, like do you use
oh
tools or
yeah.
anything that you could recommend to other entrepreneurs? If they
I
came to you and
mean,
said, "What do you use daily that works for you?"
yeah. I mean, I'm quite ingrained with my Google products. There's nothing that's super wild that I use every day. I'm I follow my calendar. I'm on my email. I love Slack with the team, so we're fairly traditional in that regard. And for me, you know, communication, I spend a lot of time on Zoom. I love Zoom. And no, there's no particular tool. I take notes on my phone whenever I'm thinking of things. I have different systems that I use for, like, if I remember something, I send myself an email, and then that works its way into different to-do lists that I use. And so I think, always being on top of one's thoughts and having a good system, I think it comes down to what works for you, and everybody's got their own systems. But I do think that harnessing the concepts to grab your ideas when they're even when you're on the go, is super important.
Okay, let's get to know you a little bit better. If you weren't doing what you do now, what would you like to do for a profession?
Mhm. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, my track record says that I love technology, and I love the concepts of strategy and marketing, and I'm very passionate about those. But I do have particular passions and hobbies, and probably, outside of spending time with my family, which everyone could say is that my two main passions are martial arts. I really enjoy um, rigorous exercise, and through martial art is a lot of fun and helps to kind of clear one's mind. And I'm also passionate about electronic music, and so
Oh,
I follow a lot of different events and DJs and producers within electronica.
what kind of a job would you not like to do? Couldn't do it.
um that's interesting. I've always said that, I would happily just open a flower shop, or sit in a convenience store. What could I not do? Um, I don't know. I'd have to think of something that was just absurdly monotonous. I think would have to be it. And so,
Repetitive, something repetitive that is
yeah,
like
too repetitive that you cannot listen
sit on
or
Excel
watch at the
document.
same time.
Sit on an
Yeah,
Excel document and move numbers around all day.
yeah. I guess. I mean, like, I'm I'm a kind of a dreamer type of person. So, like, as long as I'm free with my thoughts and I could plug into something at least a percentage of that time. If I'm locked in a box and I'm not allowed to listen to a podcast or a history documentary, then I'd be sad. But as long as I have some freedom to ingest, then I'm good.
In business, what's your favorite word, quote, or sentence that you like to use? Is there anything that you frequently find yourself
Um,
saying?
yeah, no, I like it's Peter Drucker, who's a famous business thought leader, and he said the best way to predict the future is to create it. So that's my
Okay.
favorite one.
What's your least favorite word or sentence you do not like to hear?
Least favorite. Well, we we run a 24-hour network that's dependent on 24-hour systems, and so the worst thing to hear is uh, we're down, because
Yeah.
when it's down, the phone starts ringing and everybody's, oh, it's bad. So it
It's
happens,
yeah. Get
but it's
time to
bad.
get out of bed. Let's
Oh
get
yeah, it's go time.
if you had to pick one or two words to describe yourself, what would it be and why?
Um, I would say persistent. I think would be good, a good
Mhm.
one. I think that that's definitely something that characterizes me. And I think with the team and just in my life, I like to have fun. So I like to keep it light. I like to bring humor. I like people to express themselves. I like people to work in the way that makes them happy, and so that they can bring them best selves. And so I think fun would be. I hope I'm fun.
It's a
Be what
fun
I call
place.
myself. I don't know
Fun
if anyone
place.
else would
Yeah.
agree, but
Yeah. I think that's a lot to do with company culture too. I think some
right.
places are so serious that if you're there 8, 10 hours a day, 15 hours a day, you got to break the monotony and have a little bit of flavor in there.
Yeah,
To yeah.
exactly. Like, no matter how difficult or complex or serious task is, you got to bring some humor and have some fun with it.
Yeah. Anything keeping you up at night? Do you take your work to bed with you, or can you shut it off and wait till the morning to start up again?
No, 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 I can't shut it off. So unless I'm well, yeah, unless I'm doing a martial art, I can't shut it off, because only when someone's trying to attack me is the only time I can't think about work. So no, what scares me is I mean, in tech and in we're a little bit bigger now, but you're always operating on the edge of, you could say, the razor's edge. But one analogy that I liked is that like in surfing, or looking at a wave, the top of that cresting wave, it has the most potential, but it's also got the most risk, because if things go wrong, you crash. And so in tech, you're never really safe. Like, even giant Google, like, look what just happened to Google. I mean, they thought they were safe. They had it paved. But boom, everyone's going to use Google forever. And then here comes Chat GPT, and Microsoft gets this huge burst. So, like, you never really know what tomorrow is going to bring. And maybe that's part of the excitement, but it
Mhm.
also keeps you up at night.
Entrepreneurs, as you know, have many mentors and people that advise them. Do you have any advice that you may have received that you can pass on to entrepreneurs throughout Canada?
Sure. Yeah. No, of course. One of my great mentors had a saying that he loved to say, and that is, what you gain on the swings, you lose on the roundabouts, which is the concept for, don't sweat a loss because you're going to get a gain somewhere else. And, of course, celebrate the win, but you're going to lose something somewhere else. So it's going to work out, and you just got to keep pushing and banging and, doing your best, and have some fun with it.
So you're saying don't go too high and don't go too low. keep
I'm
it.
just saying you can't sweat the losses, like it's like if you get a bump one day, you might get a trough the next. And what you have to do is just stay steady and consistent. And that's where that saying comes from.
Okay, great. Okay. We're going to wrap this up, Jason. How can our listeners get hold of you? And is there anything you'd like to add before you leave us today?
Entrepreneurs can get a hold of me anytime. So yeah, it's Jason, Jason at Kidoz, Kidoz.net. And write to me anytime. Love to hear about your journey. And I think, just parting words, I'd love to say that, stay focused, young entrepreneurs, like believe in that idea, bring something to fruition, send those emails late at night, knock on doors. And there is, great opportunity. And I think now more than ever, anyone can, anywhere can come up with the right idea to enable themselves to be their own boss. And so just believe it and push.
And be persistent.
Persistence is important.
Okay, great. Jason, thanks for coming on the show. I've learned a lot about you, and I'm sure our listeners have as well.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We'll see you next time.